Welcome back to another episode of the Bull in the Cup podcast. I'm your host, David.
And I'm the co-host, also David, David's dad. All right, welcome everybody to our second episode of Season 2. An eventful week. Before we get into our stocks this week that we're tracking Amazon for me and GameStop for David and what's going on each week with those stocks. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world. Obviously, we don't take political stances here, but anytime we have, over the last 48 hours, big news in where the United States bombed 3 different sites in Iran that had potential sites where they were potentially developing nuclear weapons. And so that's big news because that inserted the United States into the Iran-Israel conflict, and so now puts us in direct conflict with Iran. Why does that matter? We talk about from how does things impact the market and what's going on in the world. Well, if we're in conflict with Iran, that causes 2 things. One, it causes just kind of economic uncertainty, and that causes people to back off from the market a little bit when there's any kind of uncertainty as to if we're going to be at war or in a conflict with somebody. And 2, Iran can impact the price of gas because of their ability to control the supply of gas and blockade and block certain transport. So David, talk to us. Why is that bad for the U.S. economy if Iran starts causing troubles for gas prices?
Well, if Iran starts causing trouble for gas prices, people spend more money on gas, then they don't have as much money for other things. There's also another opportunity here for some companies, which is they don't have enough money for gas. They buy an electric car instead. But that is like one of the options, and the other, like I just said, was that they just have less money for other things, which is worrying with a lot of things. And except for like a few things, like for example, the stock I picked last week was Kroger. You still need to eat, so that's like going to be the priority anyway. So you don't have to worry about some things like that. But for some stocks, it will be a bit more tricky.
I love the way you're thinking about this. So when things go on in the world, we want to think, which industries are going to be impacted. So if gas prices do go up, as if you're a betting person, you'd think they would if we're in a conflict with Iran. Some industries will be heavily impacted, such as anything where now consumers have less money because they're spending money on gas. But other industries, like you say, David, are going to be you still need to go to the grocery store and still need to eat, so maybe not as impacted as much. But those things get priorities versus maybe other kinds of goods. So something to watch in the upcoming weeks as we kind of keep a track on gas prices and the overall impact on the economy. So let's do our stocks that we're tracking. We're tracking Amazon and GameStop. We want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. Let me talk about Amazon. So I'm tracking Amazon each week. This week for Amazon, it was down a bit. It was down from 213 to 208. Overall, it's been down just a bit for the year, but up significantly from where it bottomed out at $167 a share in mid-April during all the tariff concerns. That's when things bottomed out for a lot of companies. And so it's never going to be entirely clear why a stock moves in a certain week, but we're going to give you some educated guesses here. One of the reasons why we think it's slowed down a little bit for Amazon this week is that it had such a nice recovery off of that bottom out in April. So when you're tracking a stock and deciding what stock to buy, you want to look at its history. And for Amazon, it's been going up pretty consistently since that mid-April bottom out. And so it may be at a point where investors just kind of backed off a little bit because it's kind of earned some of that profit back after bottoming out. The other thing that was in the news is interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit about when you get to Kroger later. Amazon's in the news a lot this week because it's now forcing employees to relocate to certain hubs or quit. So every company kind of has hubs where its focal point is located where it has a base, essentially, where most of its employees are located. And for other employees scattered across the country, that's fine if your company's okay with it. But if your company ever says, well, we've got to be located near a hub, so either move to our hub, which is not feasible for a lot of employees, or quit, that's a design by a company to cut its workforce. And you're seeing that with a lot of companies right now lately. It seems to be a move from a lot of companies to cut its workforce and say, can we do the same? Can we produce the same with less employees? So cut our costs, but try to expect more from our current employees. And that's what a lot of companies are doing. I don't have an opinion on that as to whether that's across the board a good thing. It just depends on the company. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be really bad. But it's something that Amazon's taking a step with, and we're going to see how this market reacts to that. Right now the stock's down just a little bit, but I don't know if that's related to the job changes there, but just something we want to follow in the news. So that's what's going on with Amazon this week. How about for you, Dave? What's going on with GameStop this week?
For GameStop, it's been going on like how I hoped. It's not had an insane spike, like unlike some other stocks we'll talk about later. GameStop has gone up 6%, which is a nice amount. And even though we don't know, there's not a big reason why. There's some educational guesses of why. Some things are things like the Nintendo Switch 2 and Zelda. A lot are being often sold with GameStop. So that they made a deal with like Nintendo. That they're not the only sellers, obviously, but they're like a main one, which makes it, and those are obviously very popular, which like made the stock go up. And other than that, that's like just the main reason. I was a bit worried about GameStop as it has a lot of doesn't have a lot of necessities, which might be worrying this week as some as we said, and people are gonna have less money with the prices of gas going up.
Right, no, that's a good point. And so we saw on the news, I was watching on the news when Nintendo Switch came out, the Switch 2, and there was lines, around the block. People wanted that. So that spells good news for a company. Anytime you have lines of customers out the door spending more money at your business. So that's interesting. Okay, we'll continue to see what happens with GameStop. Good news with all the new products coming out, hopefully increasing revenues and results in a good earnings report when that comes out, but also some concerns with the overall uncertainty of the market. All right, let's pivot now to part 3 of our weekly podcast, which is the game. So you crushed me this week on the game. I picked Chime, which was very risky, as we talked about, picking an IPO, initial public offering, a new stock that came out. Chime was the online banking company that came out. And so they IPO'd, they opened at $27, jumped all the way up to $43, and then came down to $35 when I had talked about it on our podcast. But it even kept going down a little further last week at $29 now. Still, I think that's just the kind of settling of the initial IPO. So I'm not too worried about that one long term. I think it's still a good business to invest in. I think online banking is kind of the wave of the future as more and more people pivot over to it, to one-stop shop and less brick and mortar. I don't even know what hours the bank is even open now. It's rarely open these days anymore, so most people just, go to online banking. So you beat me. How did Kroger do this week?
Well, Kroger had a very surprising uptake. Kroger went up 10% and this week. And Kroger is one of those stocks where it doesn't fluctuate much because, as I said, it was a grocery store. It's necessities, so it doesn't fluctuate. That's probably one of the highest jumps it's ever had, and it was like a great report. Even though an interesting thing, Kroger had over 60. They said they would close 60 stores, which you might think that means the stock will go down, but they were closing stores that weren't making money. So they were making basically more profits when they got rid of those stores.
Right, that's interesting. So it's so fascinating how the market can react to something like that. You'd think, oh my God, they're closing 60 stores. The company may not be doing well. Or no, when you deep dive into it, maybe they're just trying to say, let's get rid of our least profitable stores or our not profitable stores and then allow company to have more profits per store on average. So that's could ultimately be a good thing for the company, something to watch out for. All right, so what's going on this week now? I need to redeem myself this week because I got crushed last week. Do you want to go first on the stock picking game?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, you're such a gentleman. So I said I better be careful here. Better watch out for the transportation industry if the gas prices are going up, and watch out for consumer goods if gas prices go up and people have less money to spend on consumer goods, and the market will see that, and it could be spell trouble for my Amazon stock. But what's up significantly post-COVID is travel. We're going on vacation soon, summertime. Lots of people are going on vacation soon. So I went with Marriott this week, as hotel prices have increased. I believe it's 50%. Average price of a hotel is up 50% over the last year. So hotel prices have been up as the travel industry does well post-COVID, and continues to do well. Marriott started the year at $256. It was $280 at the start of the year. It's down a bit. It's at $256 now. So I think it's at a good spot as people continue to travel. Hopefully the uncertainty of the market doesn't cause people to back off of travel, because Marriott is a worldwide hotel chain. But I've got Marriott this week. I think it's primed for some positive movement. What do you got, Dave?
Well, I got Tesla today, and let me just explain why. I mean, a Tesla's kind of terrifying to me right now because it just like spikes randomly. But also, I feel like it's gonna go up because, as I said before, as gas prices go up, people can't afford gas. People are gonna buy electric cars. What's one of the main electric cars on the market? Teslas. So I feel like Tesla should go up. I mean, I'm hoping.
That's a good one. It was $325 right now, and it peaked at the very beginning of the year at $426 or so, but now it's at $325. So it's certainly been, $100 a share higher than where it's at now, and we'll see how the uncertainty in the world and the gas prices, if it pushes people towards electric vehicles and the market anticipates that, or if overall global uncertainty causes people to shy away from all consumer products. All right, Marriott versus Tesla this week. We'll see who the winner is. We may be on vacation next week, so we'll see. We may have an adjustment in our schedule, and so we may have a slight delay in episode 3 coming out, as we usually do these on Sundays. Anything else though today?
I think that's all. We'll see you next time. Bye.